I never thought I would be a guy that would say, yes, I started this business and now it's kind of running without me while I go do this other thing that I
Oh
really
my
want to
gosh.
do.
Yeah.
That's a whole new mindset that I'm still shocked I can say right now.
Yeah, let's talk about
Well,
that
credit
too.
to you. Yeah. Let's, I
Thanks.
love that.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, listen, it really has been thanks to this, right? Like I, I don't know if Christopher told you. I visited him. I visited him in Santa Cruz like 2 years ago because
Mm.
I was speaking at this thing in like Redwood City, and that's when he was first kind of like. I feel like you all were first starting to jam on this like creator capitalist thing. So
Mm.
I was
Mhm.
just like, oh, this is what's coming. I'm taking it to heart, and I just started approaching it in the way that I assumed you all would talk about it. Obviously, you're evolved it and it's way better languaged and all the other stuff of any way that I could describe it. But um, it has been this kind of like insight I know to be true for myself and thing that I was following for a long time. Then layer on the idea of category design on top of it, and using the insight of the thing that I knew to be true, to be quite frank, to get access to category design mentorship, right? Like the journey I went on trying to start the category thinkers community, I felt really prepared me for then internalizing everything that we talked about in the category design academy, and then continuing to, so it like served me personally,
Mm.
and then packaging it as like a real framework that in accordance with what intellectual, like as an intellectual capitalist, has served me. But then the major accelerator that I think has happened for me is seeing how you all implemented AI into the academy and doing that, and then just like adding that to like my playbook, right? But like I had at the core of all of it is, you know, being able to repurpose content for other people, for myself and other people, has been something I used as like a serving mechanism to get in the door, like with my own ideas and like serve in my own intellectual capitalist way. Um, but the magnification of being able to do that, sped up by the clarity of a point of view and the unique value, the delivery mechanism of the no sell sell, and then
Mm.
the scale of also adding writing to the mix, has been a total game changer.
Kudos to you, my friend. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Thanks.
That's
It's been
amazing.
amazing.
that's awesome. I'm curious to hear more, and we can just dive in, and Christopher will join us when he joins us. Um, I'm curious to hear. Let's talk a little bit first about like what you're doing now, because that's interesting to me. That you obviously you've known about category design for a long time, right? You built the category thinkers community. You're running that, and I'm curious, like, what was there a specific thing that made it click for you, or do you think it was finally the point of, I have the mentorship, I have people like encouraging me who've done this themselves, like, because I'm trying to think of like, okay, I understand the theory of category design.
Mhm.
What is the actual aha or like accelerant into, I can actually make money from this?
I don't know if I am making money off category design as much as, well, I guess I am. So I would say it's like a couple of compounding things, right? One is thinking from a a category formulaic lens in the way that I talk about the service and package the, like the ideology around the service that I've created, was very clear to me from day one that I needed to figure out.
Mm.
Post reading Play Bigger, I feel like one kind of like walks away thinking, all right, so what am I going to name it? The close contact interaction with people, and then from that moment, I read that in like 2019, and I was literally just like, how can I talk to more people about this, right? And so in
Were
order to
you
contextualize,
already doing your venture at the time in
I was just
2019?
getting started. I
Just getting
was
started.
just
Oh,
getting
okay.
started. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just getting started there, and it was really just like, how do I productize community creation as a business development mechanism, was like my language. Um, and then I had this like massive success with my first big client that was almost like detrimental to me because I felt like I knew what I was doing more than I actually thought I knew what I was doing.
That was the $40 million outcome.
That's that $40 million outcome, right?
Massive success. Massive.
Yeah.
Wait a second. I don't know this story.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
is it worth going into?
Yep.
Yeah, I can wrap it up pretty quickly. As I left, I've been chasing this thesis for 10 years, right? I think you all know, like had this like aha moment at my brother's funeral. And then from there on out, just kind of like iterated until I got an opportunity to join this like startup and prove it beyond like my local economy in Miami in a year, kind of like proved it there. I jumped into a dumpster fire, turned it around. And by the end of the year, I also knew that this dumpster fire was the cause of someone that I'm never going to be able to control. And I don't want to live in a dumpster fire. So took this like purposeful pause the first 90 days of 2019 to figure out where I want to be in 10 years and reverse engineer. Went to like 4 conferences and was just like spitting until I realized this like, okay, the essence here is community creation for business development. And after those 90 days, I went off and started trying to like pitch these ideas to people. By the end of that year, I had landed a couple of like author influencer types, which were like doing like community on the back end of a free book plus shipping funnel. One of them was like a world-class content expert. So I started thinking, if community is not a Monday morning problem for people, it's more like a back end thing that fills a bucket. What's the Monday morning problem I can solve? These ways that I've been doing it feed the content beast on the front end. And in like late 2019, it was not as easy to just like create a lot of content. So just quantity was a value. And that's when I got introduced to JWB Real Estate Capital. Their issue was, we know we want to create content because our customer acquisition is like mostly coming from these pay $25,000 and they teach you how to do real estate for 3 months. And then once they realize like, once you've paid that and they've qualified you, then they actually send you to us to send you this real estate, this like sell you these investments. And that was like, 65% of their client acquisition was coming from this one affiliate. And the co-founder of the company was rightfully thinking, I can't be so beholden to like a channel that I don't control at all. So he knew he had to create content for people to understand. Their conversion rate from people coming in from the website was under 1%. So, had just been featured on the front page of the Wall Street Journal and still can't close off of the website. So I pitched him on this like content idea that was, hey, we build this community, we highlight your investors, we highlight the Jacksonville ecosystem and how attractive of a market it is. And we do this very deliberately through this like high touch content co-creation interaction where we are creating this social validation around us. It ends up being community, but we get the content that we need and the social validation and get to explain people. And we started January 2020. March 2020, COVID hits. All of a sudden, people really are looking for these online communities and things to do on their lunch hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that live kind of like press conference while the world is falling apart and a steady voice saying, hey, your investments are doing well. And yeah, oil prices went negative, but look, rents are going up. And all these kinds of things led to like outsized results. And by end of year 1, it was a $40 million channel. And we became over 60% of their client acquisition. And this other affiliate kind of like took it in the teeth, right? Because they were an event company during COVID.
Can I ask you, Pablo, 40 million, just rough back of the envelope math.
Yeah.
Is that a, 10x what they paid you? Is it 100x what they paid you? Is it 1,000x? Like just roughly speaking.
We want to know the value of your value.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, right? Because my scope with them has more than doubled in what they pay me on a monthly basis. But like year 1, the scope was $6,500 a month. So easy math to do there, right?
So that's I'm going to say $6,500.
Was that we were just on another call and we were talking about moments in our careers where something like that shows up and we go, I think somebody owes me some money.
I call it a 600x ROI, revenue ROI on their investment. So not a bad deal at all,
Yeah.
Pablo. That
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they,
it's
yeah,
a complex sale, right? So you
100%.
can't completely attribute to what I was
Yeah,
doing, but
yeah,
it has changed the way that they go to market profoundly, and it's
yeah.
now at the center of all of it, right?
And you were saying how that kind of spoiled you for like, well, everyone's going to be like that. But I was kind of curious. That's probably not the first time you had a 7-8 figure impact on somebody's business, is my guess, right? To Christopher's point of somebody
Yeah.
owes me some money, of like, when was the earliest time you had done that for anybody, a boss you work for, or a company, or anything like that, where it was like the power of the community? Because like, you know what, Pablo, it reminds me of my Anheuser Busch friends, when you'd walk through their office in St. Louis. There were big signs that would say, making friends is our business. And they truly believed that. They were not in the beer business. They were in the making friends business.
That's cool.
And that, I know I won't go have Christopher go down the arrogant bastard, zebra hole and the like, but different types of beers for different types of use cases.
Yeah.
And one reason why you would have a light, refreshing beer that everybody drank the same of was if you were trying to do this making friends is my business thing. So I'm curious as to when the earliest example of your superpower came to light, where you were like, whoa.
I discovered this as a way to create outcomes serving the nonprofit world, right? Like in 2010, I got an email saying that millennials suck at being philanthropic, and we need to create these like young professional groups for millennials, and Habitat for Humanity needs people to step up and do it. And through that journey, we developed, me and like this group of young professionals in Miami developed this like playbook around how to leverage a small group of people, and get them indoctrinated into it by having meetings with like the board of directors where they would like tell us about their life, and we would recruit folks to these happy hours by doing this type
And
of stuff.
you were an employee or an advisor, or
I was at the time I had my first business venture, which
got
was
it.
a green building consulting company, and I thought it was a good way of doing business development. Not necessarily true, but it did completely refine my skills later, because I joined this like bigger contractor that bought me out and brought me in house. At the time, as like my star
But
was
as a
rising.
result of your nonprofit impact, which
No,
what
no,
was
just
no,
as a
just
result of like, it made more sense to bring me in house than to just keep paying me as a consultant. Right. And I showed up to Miami with a particular set of skills that nobody else had, because I had just spent 5 years in California becoming a green building expert. Right. So, what happened inside that company was it got bought by an international Spanish conglomerate. And within like a couple of years, the CEO that brought me in, who was a close personal mentor of mine my whole life, and, highly, highly respected, CEO had changed a couple of times. And at the time, I had been like running this kind of like small event playbook of figuring out how to be guilty by association with the right people in order to attract the bigger crowd, to create a certain level of influence for nonprofits. And I had an aha moment where I thought, oh, okay, well, in a world where everybody's looking at me like, what is the director of sustainability and why are we paying you $100,000? I could become a business developer by doing the same thing on like an event level, locally, right? So the first aha was finding this developer that was doing this, like, it was a transit oriented development project, right? Like it was like a high rise on top of the metro rail station right next to the University of Miami in a high density spot, but it was also in Coral Gables, which is like a low density high income area where nobody wants a high rise in their backyard. And he was having a really hard time getting the project approved. And I approached him with, hey, listen, man, I know that, you're having a hard time with this. I know it's transit oriented development because I'm the green guy. There's a politician on the board of one of my charities who's like really passionate about public transports in Miami. And I feel like people just don't get what you're doing, man. Why don't we do an event around transit oriented development? I'm going to invite this like group of young professionals that I'm like a steward of across these multiple charities, and like educate the youth on the need for public transportation. That dude was over the moon about it, right? Because I connected him to the politician and we ran this little event, gave him some good PR. And a week later, his assistant project manager was reaching out to us, asking us if we wanted to bid on a $65 million project that we had no shot at prior. Right. So we completely backdoored this like really stupid type of doing sales
Amazing.
in construction. That's like, give me a bid and give me a price through the door of value. That was the first time that it really,
But you know what, Pablo, like, I don't think I'd ever, I mean, you've been on the pirate ship for a long, long time, and we've had many conversations, and yet I don't think I had ever heard you describe your superpower evolution from I'm the green building guy to I'm the community guy to now I'm the word of mouth guy to,
Yeah.
well, I'm
Pablo
now
the
Pablo.
Connector.
Pablo the Connector. I mean, that it's you know, up there with Conan the Barbarian and, you know, and all the other monikers that are out there. But like, it's really kind of interesting to see how your superpower evolves and transforms and changes and it gets clarified over time, almost like a really a sauce that gets reduced with heat and intensity. I mean, like,
And I know a guy who is, I don't know if he's quite a billionaire yet, but he's worth a shit ton of money. And his name is Ron Conway. And he's one of the most influential people in Silicon Valley. And I'm sure Ron has other skills, but Ron's main skill is this skill. So much so that Mike Homer, the CMO of Netscape, called Conway the human router. And he created this angel capital fund. And some people who are less generous would call Conway a bullshitter and a glad hander and a backslapper. But his thing is, I connect people, I slap them on the back, I put them together, I take people to the football game, we go to the baseball game, we have a party, we do this, we do that. And my superpower is I know everybody. And if you want to get to somebody, I get you to that somebody. And Ron is one of the most powerful, influential. He's independent. He runs his own thing. All the VCs put him in their things because they know Ron knows everybody. And he has literally become, if not a billionaire, at least a half billionaire, because he's a glad hander and a backslapper. Not bad. Now you can't live on that, Pablo, but it's a good start.
but you know, Christopher, to your point, between Ron and Pablo, I think about it as it's not just that Pablo. You tell me if this resonates. It's not just that Pablo knows everybody or knows people. It's that there's a certain credentialing that comes if Pablo calls you a friend, and that there's a stamp and a signature like, you know, there are just certain types of people that I assume if Pablo knows that Pablo won't bring into the fold, like it is as much about Pablo's connection as it is Pablo the sommelier, as it were. Like, I trust his taste. I trust that he knows how to match people to the right circumstance.
Correct.
And this
It's
and that.
it's not just knowing everybody, it's knowing who should know each other.
Yes. And that
And that when
imagining.
that connection gets made, it's actually a very real, powerful thing, right? So that's the skill underneath the superpower underneath the superpower. It's actually, first you got to know everybody, but then you really got to know who should know each other.
Wait, because I think about it now. Now we're doing the one sentence strategy for Pablo, which is not. We're supposed to let Pablo talk, not us talk about Pablo. But like, you know, it's there's Pablo the Connector, and the unlocker of abundance, right? Because part of what you are doing is you're not just I know people, I know everybody, but you know, Katrina and Christopher, if they get to know each other, abundance will emerge from it. And so it's like you know, Carl Weathers and Rocky with all of his nicknames, you know, the Master of Disaster and all. Like, there's all these nicknames, Pablo, you have, but it's Pablo the Connector, the unlocker of abundance, and the person who sees a future where, you know, people are better off knowing people they didn't know beforehand. And I think that's the real power of community that you're describing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that right? Because you don't get a $40 million outcome just by connecting randos. It's because you saw something that was unmet need, met solution, and vice versa.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's one thing to be a matchmaker who sets people up on dates. It's a whole other thing to be a matchmaker who sets people up and then they get married.
true, true. The thing that has most resonated with it is like even as you guys are all describing this, right? Like these are all superpowers and skill sets that I have. It didn't make me money until I could figure out what the actual outcome those superpowers derive. Right. So this is why I just posted that idea in the category design academy of like focus on the outcome. Right. And when I finally reached this kind of like heavy dollar amount outcome that I could really like brand myself around, there still needed to be a what is like the atomic unit of this outcome, right? Like how is this happening, and being able to package it in like in the way that an intellectual capitalist would package it is the journey that I was on, which were, it was definitely one part category design, another part intellectual capitalist framework, right? And understanding the true nuances around how category design really takes hold. Um, a couple of the foundational elements there of rooting it in a context change, which then drives this like new missing, the non-obvious obvious piece, that's created by the context change, which then justifies the need for it, the reason for the innovation right now. Were all things that I really needed to learn in order to it not just be fancy talk around the outcome I create and have people actually be able to see themselves in the story versus just like, yeah, Pablo's friends with everybody. To be honest, yes, I do think that I connect the right people because I'm so obsessed with value creation. But at the same time, I'm also like a total golden retriever, right? Like I don't think like it's very easy to be Pablo's friend. It's just, you're just not going to get an introduction to somebody else unless I think you're going to give them extreme value. So at the end of the day, the real thing that drives it is the social validation piece. And the community creation part is just this like giant nuclear reactor well of social validation that you can tap on to open doors, to facilitate outcomes, to, like convince people that, yeah, this is for me. And that's been kind of the journey that I had to get really, really clear on, including a moment when I think Christopher posted something around like everybody was getting really into this idea of like dark social. And you posted something like whoever called it dark social is the biggest idiot I've ever heard is digital word of mouth. That's where I took that's where I took the whole stance from, was like from a LinkedIn post from me. I'm like, yeah, digital word of mouth is way more easy to understand what you're doing here. And the way the digital word of mouth happens is blah, 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 and create the intellectual capitalist framework around it that then really started to resonate.
So, Pablo, what's so fun is just jamming with you on this is that I don't know if this is the right phrase, but like you are at some level a community capitalist. I don't know if that's weird to say, but like it sounds like a communist capitalist, but you're a community capitalist, right? And because you're exactly right. It's, one thing to be Pablo's friend. It's another thing when Pablo sees something where 1 + 1 = 11, right? Which is the capitalist part of it. And, I don't know that I've ever heard you articulate this. I mean, certainly you know how to generate digital word of mouth, which is a superpower into itself. But what you are also describing is when two people for whom they have the Pablo stamp of approval, which is meaningful, but you can see the future and see a future where they have helped each other in mutual abundance in a way that, it is magical almost, that when you matchmake and abundance and transformation occurs, that's the best kind of word of mouth, right? Is not only did I get this outcome, I got this outcome from somebody I never would have met had it not been for Pablo. And I think that kind of, there are people who build community and then, but as you said, don't capitalize on it. There are people who, hey, I need someone, you match make that way, right? What you are doing is entirely different. It's relational and not just transactional, but it's also deeply transformative in a way that is kind of abundance economically, emotionally, and like all of these levels at the same time. That's kind of cool.
Pablo, one thing I wanted to ask you, and maybe we can dig into it in detail a little bit, is I think people don't do this enough when they're starting their careers, when they're building their, call it IC, like I have this IC offer and now I'm just going to push it out on LinkedIn and I'm going to promote it and promote it and promote it. And they don't always consider the social validation, the word of mouth, the relationship side of things, right? So if you have someone, or if you've known someone who kind of struggles a little bit with that relationship side of things, or when you yourself, you were like, I needed that social validation from people, right? And it was getting them to speak about your outcomes so other people could see that you were driving those outcomes. How'd you go about doing that? Like, what does that look like? What have you seen work well? What doesn't work so well? Both for you and for anybody else that you've just kind of been seeing online as you've been doing this for companies and people.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kat. I think that this framework to me is so powerful on an individual level because I've lived it, I've seen it, like all these different things. So executing this on a company level is another thing. It requires more operational capital. But I was just on the phone last week with a buddy of mine from those nonprofit days who really cares about real estate development, social impact, right? And he's like about to make a move, and I was going through this, and the big aha for me was how do you the thing that creates social validation capital is owning some form of stage, right? Like the nonprofit was a stage for me early on. Like I want to be your friend, but I'm doing this under the guise of I'm inviting you for something for Habitat for Humanity, right? So for a long time, I was like, get involved in a nonprofit. They have all sorts of events. You're going to be able to bring people in. You're going to notice really quickly that people on the boards of nonprofits are the most influential people in town, and you're going to get connected and you're going to be good, right? As that viewpoint evolved for me, the ability to co-create content.
That was just a massive amount of intellectual capital you just dropped, by the way. So I don't know if you've ever written about that, but I don't want to stop. But that's the Tom Schwab quote, right? What is obvious to you is extraordinary to others. So I'm just pointing that out, my friend. So keep going.
Thanks. As I boiled it down, as I had that aha moment with that developer and whatnot, and then I went to this like startup and I realized I had to scale it beyond my town. What I realized that any form of like content stream is a stage, is a completely scalable stage. And I hate to say this, but I realized it by looking at Gary Vee's content. It's like in 2017, I was seeing all of his clips where it's a keynote, somebody asks him a question in a keynote, and then it goes on his Instagram of him giving somebody advice. And I'm like, this is how you scale this thing, right? Like this is how you scale the stuff that I was doing in back rooms. So as that has evolved, Kat, the simple way of doing it when category design came into the fold was the aha moment around, oh, all this has worked for me because I've been passionate about a cause, not just me, not just my product. From my green building days where I was just in rooms saying, I think Miami's going to be the poster child for sea level rise in first world cities, and I'm here to make a difference on that.
You
are you
were a
interested or not?
missionary.
Yeah,
Missionary, not
right.
a mercenary.
It was the missionary, and it was the cause, and it was evangelizing a problem, right?
And you had a point of view.
And I had a point of view.
John Mellencamp years ago wrote a song with the lyric, you got to stand for something or you're going to fall for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you combine missionary and you combine obsessed with a problem, which is deeply connected to missionary, and then you have a differentiated point of view about where to go. What you just said about Miami, that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you throw in a profound and unique insight around relationship capital. The richest, smartest, most influential people are on the boards of charities. Hmm. The other one I like is, and if you hang around charities, those are rich, influential people think you're a good person because you're doing charity things. Whether you are or not, that's a whole other conversation. But anyways, so those are a whole series of dots you connected, and then all of a sudden, and then you realize your superpower and your own personal category design, aka capitalize on shit you create,
Mhm.
and bada bing, bada boom. And just on a percentage basis, how much more are you making now than you were, say, 2 years ago?
Uh, like 2.5x.
Wow. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, on a personal level, it's been unbelievable for my marriage to like be at this place where of like abundance and like, money doesn't solve for happiness, right? But like the having to not feel like you're consistently falling behind is a major pressure release off the valve, right? So that's been
And
good.
had you had that before, prior in your career?
I had what?
A financial, your own financial abundance where that pressure was gone and then it came back as you went out on your own? Or is this a relatively new, you're at a new level and you're experiencing a new thing?
This is a totally new thing, right? Like one of the reasons I left Miami was because I just thought that city was getting too. I love Miami, right? Like my name is Pablo Gonzalez, and I speak English and Spanish, and I listen to Pitbull and all the good things,
And
right?
you're handsome as hell.
Stop. Um, but I just the cost of living in Miami versus kind of like the quality of life for somebody that is, in the middle early stages of their career where we're both, we were making like a combined like 165, something like that. You feel like the ability to save money and do stuff was too difficult. So coming to Jacksonville at one point, and we
So
decreased
So
our
this is
smart.
important. I hate to interrupt you, but this is important because one of the things we're writing about is the whole financial side of this and the
yeah,
financial runway,
yeah.
explaining pay for the party cost.
I'm happy to talk about that.
Some people call it burn rate, but you made let me validate this. You and your wife made a conscious decision to lower our cost for the party rate and hopefully get a quality of life bump because it's a smaller place and Miami's one of the fastest growing parts of the country. But you consciously lowered the pay for the party cost to give yourself more opportunity to build a financial nest egg over time. Is that correct?
100%. In order to
And
follow my
then,
insight, I had to leave the place I was from and lower my cost of living, in order to have that runway. 100%.
okay, so now let's think about this. Let's unpack this for a second. When did you do that?
May 2018.
Okay. And over the last roughly 2 years, with this now, so you've been living with the lower pay for the party rate for several years.
Mhm.
And over the last 2 years, you had all this stuff snap in around your superpower, category design, building your intellectual capital, realizing that being Pablo the Connector was actually, I would love the quote. We just saw it this morning. I don't know if I'd seen it before about how, you didn't realize it was a superpower and you didn't realize how much people would pay for it. It's like, oh, wow. Okay. So what's my point? Several years before you lower the party cost,
Mhm.
and then all this stuff clicks in, that category design, creator capital, plus all of the insights that you're building your business on. It all comes together, your ability to execute. And so now, in the last 2 years, you've 2.5x the top line against a meaningfully lowered pay for the party cost.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so that's even more abundance, yes?
Buddy,
And
it's,
so your
yeah.
wife likes that? Is that what you're telling me? Your wife likes it when there's a high level of revenue coming in and there's a lot of the nest egg is all nice and warm and protected and maybe she can buy a Gucci bag.
I never thought that I would have beach cruiser to the beach to my favorite surf spot lifestyle. And now we have that. We own a portfolio of properties here. And we are living in like absolute abundance, right? Like we live close to the beach and doing all this stuff. And I have to say, Christopher, just to add context to it, because I told Eddie this in my response to kind of like the prep for this, but being married to the right person when you're doing this really, really helps. Not just because, hey, support and whatever. But man, when I took this risk with this like startup that I came up here for, she was able to take a year off, and we reduced our like living like our income overall, right? Like we went from making like 165 in Miami to making a total of like 120 here. But that allowed her to take some time off, heal from some things that she needed to. After I had to leave that startup and start over myself, she went out and got a job in her old career as an architect. The abundance here in Jacksonville, and I can evangelize the shit out of Jacksonville, right? Like I really believe that if I'm a young person trying to get a footing, I would move to fucking Jacksonville right now because of a lot of things. But that being said, she started making.
More
And the
intellectual capital.
Jaguars are cool.
eh,
No, okay,
It's a big hub for
yeah,
flying.
I'm in.
It's a big flying
Yeah,
hub.
yeah, yeah. But
cool
but so,
quarterback.
yeah, he's got beautiful hair for sure. So she went to work. Like I was able to build my business on like the things that I believe in, right? Not having to get too transactional too quickly, continue like down this path and really explore things, because for about 2.5 years she was our main breadwinner, and she was shooting up in her own personal income because she's just a superstar, right? Like, and once she like cleared all the stuff that she needed to out of her headspace and give herself a restart, she's been able to like re-engage professionally in a completely different way. So now, as I was trying to catch my footing, the stress of, hey, I'm still kind of like doing this, and you need to really, really monetize, and my ability to say all the stuff will compound, all the stuff will hit. I had it down to the month of when the economics would turn on, and they turned on significantly. And then at that point, now as a couple, we have 5x our revenue, because we've been able to like support each other during these times by making these hard decisions of like investing in certain things while we didn't have a lot of revenue, and giving each other, asynchronously time to heal and time to figure some stuff out while we were treading water, knowing that at some point it would all come together and compound.
And Pablo,
It's
let me know
go
if
ahead.
I don't know if you experience this or not, but when you're because I moved recently to a low cost area of living. I'm in the middle of nowhere, northern Michigan. So it is like, and I was living out west before. So that's in Utah. Like average home price in Utah, I think is like 500,000. And here it's like 200,000. And it's so hard to focus on building your own thing and doing your own thing when, at least for me, it was like, I just have to be able to afford rent and afford food and afford this and trips home to my family around the holidays. Like, I can't even put mental energy into like building my business because I'm so focused on my financials that I can't think about all the other things that need to happen in the way that I need to. And then when you move to a lower cost area, it's like, all right, if I can take some of that financial stress away, I now actually have the mental capacity to like think about the IC and think about the relationships and what do I want to build and what's the timeline. And at least that was my experience. I'm curious if it was anything like that for you.
Yeah, it's like there's like financial run rate, and then there's just like mental run rate, right? like like building yourself up some mental run rate is huge, right? Like leaving Miami and leaving the you guys drive a Honda Element and everybody else has a Beamer around you. That's some fucking run rate for you, man.
Yeah.
Like it's not, it's real. And so I don't want to underestimate that piece. I don't want to underestimate the like the good partner part. Now, Kat, to answer your question directly of like, how do you go from I have an insight to become well known? Foundationally, you get you get clear on the point of view, right? Like you get clear on the thing that you're a missionary about and the problem that you want to solve, and you devote yourself to you create your point of view, right? In my head, a point of view has current state of the world, what's changing, the pains around the current state and the pains around the change. Then there's the and how that manifests. Then there's like, what about this new way that would either eliminate like a new problem that comes from this change, or brings a new solution to an old problem that didn't exist before because of the change. And then you evangelize this new way and what that future looks like, right? Having that very, very clear, and then creating a content stream around that. If you can create a podcast to have those conversations with people that will care around those different elements of it, right? Like the unique thing that you see in someone and how it ties to either the change or the problems or the future state, or like how much you both hate all this pain and this and that. And and you start that way to build the network, right? To build the relationship capital of people that you need to know and need to be seen by, and be guilty by association with, the same way that I was guilty by association with by being on the boards of nonprofits. Um, and you develop the repurposing engine, right? Like you develop the repurposing engine around taking a podcast and turning it into clips, turning it into a newsletter, right? Like using AI and creating your own bots with your own frameworks of how you write and how you speak and all these different things, and you get really really good at doing that. And you do that for like 3 to 6 months. And then you show up at the watering hole of the place where people care about this shit. And instead of having a booth to talk about your product and talk about your solution and whatever, you have a booth that is a podcast as a trade show booth to continue this conversation in person. And you leverage the people that you've met over the last 6 months to say, oh, I want you at this booth to do a live panel version of it. And now you're putting this like social validation on scale in front of other people, and you rinse and repeat around that. You get to the heart of the folks that really give a shit about the thing that you give a shit,
Wow.
and you get a seat at the table. And to me, this like muscle of being able to like repurpose around the point of view and create content around the point of view, I call it serving the people with the keys to the doors you want to open, right? Like, and you can serve people through this like content creation and evangelization. And I give it 6 months to 12 months for anybody doing this thing around the thing that they care about. There's a certain amount of like identification of the watering hole and getting the POV right, but then it's just like fucking go. And you will open up these doors. And that's what I've experienced and I'm experiencing with this new venture. And it's all really working at scale.
So I my mind is just on fire now because like you Pablo, you're just dropping so many great nuggets of the mental runway part is so important. I mean, we wrote about it a little bit of just like part of the reason why the four capitals matter is because the negative Nellies and the outside voices are going to be there. The as you said, the social pressures of why don't you have this or that, and that the capitals give you financial capital. You're not stressed out as much. Reputation capital, people aren't, what you can do, but like all of that just clears the mind of the you can't make it, why did you do that, all that kind of stuff. So that's so important. The 6 to 12 months, so valuable. Like, hey, you don't need 6 to 12 years. 6 to 12 months, you focus and you serve the people with the keys to the doors you want to unlock. It's such a genius line, right? And that part of what is so cool, Pablo, is that the simple solution, as you said, of moving from a Miami to a Jacksonville, whatever that equivalent is, just immediately changes the runway conversation financially, as you said. Like it gives you that mental space and all that. But like what's so cool about this is like I was like, Pablo should have written all of this stuff instead of us because like you're creating financial capital, without, in some cases, without actually having your family income go up just by dropping the pay for the party costs. You're creating intellectual capital all the time. Like everything that comes out of your mouth is like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Like, but you're also doing it in the podcast format and your own, all of the writing that you're doing and the like. And you have your reputation capital as now the digital WOM guy. But I think listening to you talk about all of this, like you have all the capitals, but the one that stands above them all is your relationship capital, e.g. your community and all that connecting that you're doing, which leads me to conclude that your true name, the Pirates now have, your name is no longer Pablo Gonzalez. You are Pablo the Connector, the unlocker of economic abundance, and the king of relationship capital. That is your new name.
And listen, I'll tell you, think on it, because I'm having radical recency bias in what I'm about to say. But your LinkedIn headline says Pablo the Connector. If you
And the
were to
king
have
of
a business,
relationship capital.
yeah, and the same thing on your email sig and your website and all that stuff. And it's interesting with nicknames like that. So, this is a little bit of a side zebra hole, but one of my favorite creators in the world, I don't know her name because she goes, I think it might be Susie or Cindy, or, but I have no idea what her last name is, but I know what her moniker is. She's a chicken chick. And she does all this cool shit on the internet about owning chickens, and from the very basics, how to pick up a chicken, how to hold a chicken, to how to build a coop, to how to identify if she's sick or blah, 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 yada. I don't know if she's a vet. I don't know what she is. All I know is she's the chicken chick, and she's fucking awesome. And she's a great place to turn to if you have chickens. And so my point, and then my buddy Andy Byrne, I was explaining to him how, back in the day, John Chambers, who was the CEO of Cisco Systems, when he would present as if he was the prime minister of the internet. He just talked about how amazing the internet was and the growth of the internet and raising people out of poverty and teaching kids in Kuala Lumpur Ding Dong how to I don't know what, and commerce on the internet. It was just that guy. It was like he was giving a State of the Union address about the internet in 1998 when he spoke at investor conferences or when he talked to the media. And sure, he would talk about Cisco, but for the most part, he was the prime minister of the internet. So I explained this to Andy. And so I don't know if it's still that way, but his LinkedIn profile for a long time said the prime minister of revenue. So those chicken chick prime minister of revenue, Pablo the Connector. Yeah.
He's already got it. He's already rocking that POV.
Well, and
I would go check to see if the URL is available.
And Pablo, you tell me, and I'll say this because I know amongst Koreans, there's a lot of John Kims out there. I'm guessing there's more than one Pablo Gonzalez out there, especially in Florida, but there's only one Pablo the Connector.
Yeah. My old brand was Connect with Pablo. When this was before, I ended up wanting to build a company beyond the personal brand, right? I still own the Connect with Pablo domain and everything like that, right? So, and I had an email called "You should at Connect with Pablo" was my connectwithpablo.com was like my first email. The thing is, it's funny how we're coming full circle back to the idea of branding it around me. In order to make the business go, I had to brand it around the relationship capital, not the relationship capital, the intellectual capital, right?
Yes.
Like there's something around um, the the need to like show outcomes that aren't exclusively driven by just you, that had to work for me in a way. Like how does it serve others? And building a brand around Be the Stage and the company is what's allowed me to um, have clients come in and me say, listen, right now I'm focused on this other project, but my company's still alive and well. It's just not going to be me leading the way. But we're still doing this digital word of mouth framework, this relationship flywheel thing that we espouse, like has been something that's been able to grow legs without me as I get to, quite frankly, take on a role that I never thought I could ever have, or be involved in conversations I thought I could never be in by serving as like chief evangelist for an AI company, like riding shotgun in the Mortal Kombat tournament of Silicon Valley for the AI prize, right? Like,
yeah.
That is something I just never thought I could get into, that my personal brand got me into, right. But it was the results under the company brand that allowed me to get all the feedback loops in order to be able to like execute this at a really high level when you want me doing it.
I think to your point, I mean, there's some jamming that we can keep doing on it, but like, as you said, Pablo, the king of relationship capital, the prime minister of relationship capital, the regent of relationship capital, I don't know what, right? But like, there's something around that could also be very, very interesting. And because what it, at the old aesthetic business that my other business partner, Clint Carnell, and I ran, when he was like, what people were like, what, I know Clint's the CEO. What are you, Eddie? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm the wizard of weird data. They're like, okay, I don't know what that is, and yet I know exactly what that is, and I will remember it forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's as you said, the difference between Connect with Pablo or even Pablo the Connector to Pablo the King or Prime Minister of Relationship Capital.
Yeah.
You're evangelizing the category of relationship capital. People are like, what is that? Well, let me explain to you. I'm a missionary that connected people, that built communities, that actually when communities create economic abundance, you create digital word of mouth there. And so like this formula that you have is uniquely yours.
And yesterday in the session, I seem to remember you picking up the Companion's Guide to Rambling.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Why don't you write that centered on relationship capital for your audience? Literally set the agenda and say everybody in our industry thinks the levers of power, the levers of growth are these following things. Those things are important. But number one, all business is personal. And then you just run off with all of your learnings, all of your POV, all of your IC, and literally become the guru of how, because here's the other thing in this relationship area. It's full of donkeys. Oh, I just trying to network with you on LinkedIn. How about I buy you a coffee so I can network with you? I'll come into Santa Cruz and buy you a nice dinner. I can buy my own fucking dinner, right? This whole world of like networking is a world of generally, not all of it, of course, but a lot of donkey bullshit that is irritating, right? You are literally 180 degrees from that because you learn to go to the places that matter for the people that matter around the things that you care about and love and want to make a difference in. Create a set of relationships and a set of content to become a person of substance in that world, right? And over time, and you said 6 months to 12 months, not that long, really. You begin to become known for a niche and expertise and approach that you own, category design, right? And so my point is, you're building something real with relationship capital. It's not some manipulative donkey cocktail party LinkedIn bullshit.
I love the Pablo. What does he do? He de-donkifies networking. He converts it into relationship capital.
You could network like a donkey, or you could network like Pablo.
I just have this whole like Sancho Panza like imagery of like me riding a donkey. Let me ask you guys something.
And actually, I'm sure you could pull off the outfits better than I can.
Just on like real advice here. I believe that great wealth is created in inflection points, and I think there is the inflection point right now that you are all evangelizing around intellectual capitalists and intellectual capitalism. There's also this like AI inflection point that's happening right now. And I've kind of told myself, I was like, man, I rode my framework to a certain outcome, which I really, really love. And now if I can attach this framework to the outcome inside of this inflection point of AI and drive the conversation for Venderu and create a category king around agentic AI in like everyday business America, I want to devote myself to that. And I've kind of just told myself that I'm there for the next like 5 years to create a $10 million outcome for myself personally, or, that's the number that I hold on to. But there's also the idea that like I am crescendoing, or at least I'm at like an all-time high on what my personal brand is as well. So how do you navigate the idea of like the thing that I should go all in on? Yeah. One feels like it has a more immediate, greater outcome that if I achieve will then feed the other outcome as well. So I'm kind of ordering it.
Part of that, Pablo, I think you look for the Reese's peanut butter cup version of what you just described, right? Number one confection brand in the U.S. is the Reese's peanut butter cup, and you talked about AI and relationship capital coming together. And what strikes me is, based on what you shared the other day, what Venderu is doing is using agentic AI to kind of remove the 95% of the mundane, urgent but not important, tasks that are out there. Mm-hmm. so that, right? Why does the agentic AI remove the unnecessary stuff? So that you free up time to invest in relationship capital.
Mm.
And if you do the two things together, like time well saved to increase time well spent,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm making up stuff, you'll know better. Of when you remove the 3 a.m. the toilet's busted call, you free up room to have the, you know what, tell me, the little bit of like, what do you like about the place? Tell me about it, this and that. And when the little bit of relationship capital that you can build there leads to the, you know what, I'm going to tell my other friend that that you're a good person to work with, and this is a good place to, right? And that if you do that yin and yang of I've removed the donkey stuff so that I can increase the other great stuff to do, they come together in a way that is extremely powerful. Because you're right, because the dystopian view of AI is that it's all going to become no human interaction, and you're like, no. Pablo, the king of relationship capital, says agentic AI is going to make room for the most meaningful relationships you've ever had in your life.
I feel like I just had a Mr. B moment. You guys are so good at, like taking the personal with the business and aligning it. And I feel like that happens all day, every day inside the Category Design Academy. That's incredible. Thanks, Eddie. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
I do have to wrap up as much as I want.
I do too.
Forever.
Pablo,
I love you guys.
Thank you very much for talking with us. We'll see you around. We'll have you on again. This is not our last conversation, so thanks for sharing.
I just
today.
want to say that you are my heroes. I'm so grateful that you open source this thing. To me, as the community guy, part of me interacting in Category Design Academy was to see if you guys are full of shit on community. And it's a giant resounding, you're not full of shit at all. And the level of radical generosity that you have very deliberately injected into the Category Design Academy experience, I believe, is the reason why it's so special. And I just want to, if this is going to go out on podcast, I just really want to, I would like to attach the Pablo King of Relationship Capital brand to you guys as relationship capitalists, in a way that I cannot be more into exactly how you've done this, from a community deployment and the amount of extraordinary value that's created for me and everybody else who was in that first cohort.
Wow.
Thank you, Pablo.
We appreciate it.
Means a lot coming from our first customer in the academy as well, too.
First customer in the academy.
That's right. That's all
They can, once you hit number one, they can't take it away from you.
I did that on purpose, man. I'm NFTing that receipt. All right.
All right. Bye, everybody. See ya.
Brother.
Bye.